Obviously, everything is changing day to day. We want to try to bring up-to-date information on what's happening in the real estate market. I'll give a brief introduction. For myself, my name is Greg Harris. I'm a founding broker with Compass in Beverly Hills. Been with the company about 5 years and been in the business 15 years. Completed over 400 transactions throughout all different parts of LA, ranking in the top 100 brokers in Southern California. Today as our moderator, we've got Dan Meehan, who works with me. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
How's it going, Greg? How's it going, David? Good to see you guys.
Morning.
Dan runs day-to-day operations for us and manages all our escrows and been with us about a year, and we're grateful to have him. And I will intro David Eghbali, who is our chosen lender. I've worked personally with David for probably almost 8 years now on all my personal loans, as well as most of our clients' loans. We've done a lot of transactions together. I think he's one of the smartest and best in the business, and we want to bring him in just to talk about what's changed day to day. So David, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Perfect. So David, you're obviously one of the top lenders around, so you've got some perspective with the amount of transactions that you're doing. I think just in general, to get started, what are you seeing? Obviously, this is a fluid conversation, but what are you seeing in the last couple of days?
You know, it's a great question. I think the state of mortgage banking has been positive. We're all forgetting to look at that. These rates are extremely low. You know, we're still in the threes, low threes, which is nice, you know, for most products. And for most homeowners, you know, we look at it as if we're still historically where at the lowest we've been for quite a while now. So there's tremendous opportunity across the board for that.
Great. And then what do you, obviously you were really busy with all of the refis leading up, you know, to what happened here 2 weeks ago. Can you tell me about that transition? Kind of are you still seeing a lot of refis? Obviously purchases may have slowed down, but are you still working through that refi boom?
So we had great question. We had a mini refi boom, earlier this year. That is now towards the tail end, but might actually pick up if this COVID situation maybe ceases in the near future. But we had it where rates were extremely low threes, high twos on your 30-year fixed, your ARMs, everything, and it was pretty fantastic. So we took advantage of helping as many people as we can save money. Mm-hmm. We're in the office late at night, helping as many people as we can. As this coronavirus situation kind of grew in within the banking space and just overall Southern California economy, it slowed down. It slowed down where it's now become need-based refis where people want to maybe pull cash out to consolidate their debt. So we're getting a lot of inquiries where it's not really saving money at this point, but I had a credit card. I didn't think about paying it off, but I want to pay it off now, or a student loan or something else.
So reducing debts become a little more in other categories become a little more popular than it was, say, 6 months, a year ago.
Yeah, in an economy where we might be tightening up, it's actually very smart to start looking at ways to consolidate debt. If you have that credit card in the high 10s or 20s as far as rates, why not, utilize the equity you have in the home to pay it off, right?
Right.
We have a lot of people coming for home equity lines as well. People want to tap that equity just to have on the sidelines, which is always nice.
Yeah.
So it's the refis are there, but it's shifted as far as the necessity where cost savings, people want to save money, but if they can use their equity to do something else with, it's always a meaningful situation.
Dan, what else do you want to ask David?
Yeah, David, obviously rates have been super low, people taking advantage of it with, not only originating new loans, but, doing all the refis. Do you see any of the trends with rates and loans and refis changing given the whole COVID-19 situation coming out of this whole thing?
It's mortgage. We look at the 10-year note, right? And the 10-year note is, a good guidance or indicator of what's happening with mortgage rates. It is still unbelievably low. I think once we all get through, hopefully soon, what's happening with COVID and how it's hurting all of us, and if we get past it within the next 2-3 months, we'll see, rates dip down again. We had a little bump up, but we'll go back down to, where we've been. So there'll be a lot more opportunity to come, and maybe that means Q2 or Q3 of this year. or who knows, maybe Q4. But I'm optimistic that people who feel like they missed on the boat can absolutely come back for second wind and see what we can do.
That's great. Now, I've gotten personally a lot of calls from clients, when the news announced that interest rates were to zero. And obviously people got a little confused between the difference of Fed funds rate. Have you gotten those calls as well and had to kind of explain what a spread looks like and how banks make money?
So the funny thing is when they actually announced that, it was on a Sunday afternoon, right? It wasn't even a Monday. Yep. So my phone, and this was before I could actually get to it. So my phone started ringing with multiple questions across the board about what does that mean? Can I borrow 0%? You gave me 3.5, but now I want 0. So that was the I would say the main question. Yeah. I looked at it as if an opportunity to really educate some of our homeowners on what that really means and how it's going to affect them. So just in the simplest terms, when the Fed fund rate went from 1.25, which is extremely low, to 0, I want to say about 2.5 weeks ago or so, maybe 3 weeks ago, Sunday. What that means is it's the ability for banks to borrow from other banks at a lower, at that rate. So it's the cost of essentially doing business. It doesn't affect mortgage notes as people think it. We follow the 10-year, but as that Fed fund rate goes lower or 0 at this point, you might see banks offering different rates as far as auto loans or consumer loans. So if they're borrowing at 0 now, hopefully they'll pass on some of those discounts to consumers. So you might see, credit card rates or consumer loans or auto loans at near lows as well, which is always nice.
Oh, you do think you're going to see a drop in auto loans and other kinds of?
Correct. I think so. I mean, if the Fed fund rates goes up, right, you're going to see changes across those. But from a mortgage banking standpoint, we won't see that because it doesn't correlate the same way as it does when we look at the 10-year Treasury. The Fed fund rate doesn't set mortgage rates is the best way to say it.
Right. Interesting. And Dan, we were all talking a little bit before we got on about, first-time buyers, and tell us a little bit about where you think that opportunity is and maybe some of the interest that you've had lately from first-time buyers about jumping in.
Yeah. So the way we see it in LA specifically, our market, which is a little bit different than other markets, is the need base to go from renting to buying is there. People are still paying somewhat high rent in certain areas. And given where the rates are today, it's always nice to go over that exercise with someone who's paying, let's just say, $4,000 a month in rent or $3,000 a month in rent, and show them, have you realized you could maybe possibly buy a home and it'll be, similar to what you're paying in rent, and go over that tax benefit with them. Yeah. So the first-time home buyer market, I would say, is strong. The millennial market is extremely strong. They're coming out swinging. They want to be homeowners. They want something where they realize that if they get into a home, they're going to build equity. And that's the only way to continue and generate wealth for them. I think for them, they're anxious after paying rent for maybe a year, 2, 3 years, that when can I buy? How can I buy?
Right.
And I think if for most of us, especially yourself as agents, capitalizing on educating them. Yep. And getting them to the point where let's get them ready to buy a house.
Yep. So what do you think the biggest opportunity moving forward, say in the next 30 days, is going to be? Is it going to be on both refis, purchases? Where do you see kind of the inefficiency and the opportunity for borrowers? Everybody's situation is different, obviously.
Yeah.
What do you see?
It's we're still pre-approving people. We're still helping them. So that's the good news. You
can get a loan right now. I think that's probably the short answer of what everybody.
Yeah, you can get a loan. Loans are up. We're lending. And
timelines longer.
Timelines have changed. We're now extending. Our closing periods. It might be hard to do a 30-day close in this market.
Right.
In reality, maybe a 40, 45-day might be a little bit more beneficial, given some of the other stuff we're dealing with.
Right.
And I think most sellers are agreeable to not having such aggressive short time frames that maybe we saw 6 to 7 months ago.
Right.
But from I think 30-day standpoint, it's hard to say. But I think from a 60 to 90-day standpoint, hopefully we get back to the point where there's more, obviously, maybe inventory in the market where people feel they can confidently go out on a Sunday and start looking at homes like they used to.
More choice, maybe.
Yeah, for most of us who are having to be isolated at home or quarantined, you're stuck maybe looking at homes online, right? It's not the same as if you're going out to touching that property.
Yep. No, I completely get it. Dan, anything else on your end?
Yeah, I was just going to ask David. Obviously, it's a fluid situation. Things are changing every day rapidly. Do you see this if the coronavirus, if there's more layoffs countrywide, do you see this situation and the lending environment changing for the better, for the worse over the next couple weeks, couple months? How do you see that changing?
It's I think if it continues longer than most of us expect, I'm not an expert, but obviously paying attention to the news, it's really hard to gauge how it's going to really affect lending long term. I think the takeaway is we're going to lend, we want to lend, and hopefully the people who might be displaced because of what happened with COVID, bounce back pretty soon, so we can come back and serve their needs and help them out. I think that these are the people that we want to, if they had this stressful situation, and hopefully we can figure a way to get them inside of a home sooner than later. I don't think anyone's going to be penalized because they were out of work for 2-3 months. It's completely explainable in this market.
Right.
So if a bank requires, why were you not working for 3 months? Here's why.
Yeah.
But then if we show, obviously they're back in business, it's one of those things. It's understandable, and hopefully it's all for the positive.
Yeah, no, that's great. So the purpose of these videos is really just to bring information, and we're going to put David's information at the bottom of the video and comments. We're going to be posting these on YouTube so people can reach out directly to you, David, if they have any questions or potentially looking to refi and purchase. And that's it. I really appreciate you guys taking the time this morning, and please post in comments if you have any questions about things you'd like to see on future shows or any questions directly for David.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure speaking. Bye.